Welcome to this week's episode of Lagnapod. I'm Rob Holbert, your host today. Who else is here?
Ashley Trice.
Scott Johnson.
Brady Petrie.
Kyle Hamrick.
Tommy Hicks.
We got a full house at the rectangular round table today. Scott, we got a story this week that is one that really, I think it caught a lot of people's attention, and I know you did a lot of work on it, and it came out great. It's a really good investigative piece about a local clinic that was kind of maybe not what it looked like.
Yeah, we started getting like people just feeding us some concerns. Hey, what's going on here with a couple lawyers around town.
It's the South Alabama Medical Clinic, right?
Yeah, it's right across from Phillips Magnet School on Old Shell Road.
Right.
Kind of like an inconspicuous, it just looks like a normal medical clinic. The strange thing being, if you go there, you will never see a medical doctor or a licensed chiropractor or a licensed physical therapist. It's kind of like the doc in the box styled treatment, where you go in and there's only a certified nurse practitioner.
But so people are, calling us saying, okay, look, this is what's going on. That these, and the people who are calling us primarily were injury attorneys. Just to be honest, called and said, hey, this thing's going on.
Something's fishing.
And folks are having wrecks. They're getting phone calls from somebody after they have an accident that says, hey, we can get you some free medical care. Come over here and we'll get you seen. And they show up there and they're seen, but they also are supposed to sign a contract with an attorney, right?
And so the part of the intake process is they actually, the person calls you, they're like, hey, we're a patient insurance advocate, and kind of like that language there. And then so people show up thinking that either the other at-fault party's insurance referred them there, or, somebody else was pushing them there. They show up, and then the part of the intake process is signing a fee contract with an attorney out of Birmingham. And, they've never met this attorney. Apparently, they just call them straight up on the phone and have them try and retain you as their counsel right there. With the strategy being, you're getting free care. We're recovering the cost of this through a lawsuit or litigation or a claim through the at-fault insurance company, and we're going to get a settlement and we're going to pay for this. And which is... It raises a lot of flags. There's a lot of ethical, lines that you can cross as an attorney. You're not supposed to be contacting clients. You're not. Chiropractors can't call, crash victims within 7-something days plus of. Attorneys can't even contact anybody who's been in an accident for 30 days, and then after that they can only send a letter. So it was very fishy about how. There was a lot of questions of how they're even knowing who to call, when to call them.
How do they know how to call anybody? And on top of that, who actually owns this clinic? So you dug in and you find out who owns the clinic, who's the lawyer, the law firm. Is it out of Birmingham? Where is it? What did you find out?
Yeah, it's surprisingly very difficult to find out who actually owned it, because you hit a LLC. They filed in Montgomery with a CT corporation, and so on the surface, if you just try, you're not going to find out. I was only able to find out because I had some sources pushing me along the way, and they gave me a name, Chad David Lovelace. And as soon as I figured out the name of that guy, I was able to start just digging through business records, searching multiple states. The guy's a chiropractor out of Indiana who's really relocated to Texas in recent years, and it just started piecing it together.
You say you had about 30 clinics like this, something like that?
Yeah, I've come to find out in the last week that there's probably around 30 of these. There's one in Homewood, Montgomery, Huntsville, and here. Yeah. And there might be more. And so just poking around on all of those, I called all of them and just asked about, their treatment, what do they do? And it's basically the same thing. It's just they call it passive modality kind of treatment. You're put on a traction bed, you get an electric shock for, you might have whiplash or something like that. It's very low level. They're not doing x-rays or anything at these places. Anyway, so I once I connected that, his name, I started finding addresses of places where he's I formed this company in Alabama, but I'm
Right.
actually linking this back to a company that I formed in Louisiana, and but he's actually based out of Texas. So there's like a string of business filings. I ran into one in Florida, and this is the only one I've seen him file this way. Is 1919 Veterans Memorial Boulevard
in New
out
Orleans.
in Kenner, Louisiana.
Kenner,
And I was like, well, that's a new address. I've not seen that before. So I start looking it up, and I run into something called Chiropractic Strategies Group, which is assigned the same address. And that's when I realized, like, all these federal lawsuits start piling up in Google results.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on here? And they come to find out, I'm like reading this lawsuit that's 20 years ago. A guy named Michael Plambeck, a chiropractor who ran this large scale chiropractic group, was ended up facing criminal charges out of Texas, and then was sued by Allstate for racketeering and corrupt organization. And they won a $3.9 million lawsuit. And you start reading through the complaint and how it details how they were doing this, and it's like a carbon copy of what's happening here.
And these guys just happen to share an address.
They happen to share an address.
Happen to do the same exact thing, and so you can draw your own conclusions. They perhaps maybe know each other and perhaps have done some work together. I don't know, but we don't know that for sure. But there's just some
It's one of those things where I've kind of dug into other stories that way, where it's like maybe there's something there, but it just usually fizzles out.
Well,
and this is the rare chance where I was like, I follow through, and then it just opens up, and it's like following the rabbit hole. And
this is really, it's great investigative reporting, and this is how people listening. This is kind of how reporters do things sometimes, and you get you do just have to start kind of going down an alley and looking and seeing what's there, and all of a sudden, once in a while, something like that happens. You're like, whoa, hey, wait a minute. And so the one of the things that really became clear in the story, and I think it's something that hopefully we'll be able to figure out here in the not too distant future, is how these guys are getting people's phone numbers. Because as you said in the story, you can go look up your accident if you know your name and when the accident happened. If you know the name and you know the date, but if you don't know the name and the date, you can't do it.
Yeah.
So how are they getting the name and the date?
It's a big question.
It's coming from somewhere, right? So that's one of the things that hopefully down the line we'll figure that out. But
and you can go on the website right now with Aaliyah. You can try it. Like you're not gonna be able to find it unless you know the driver's name.
Yep.
Even the accident date. So like it is a mystery. So hopefully we'll have a development here.
But I mean, you said that sometimes I think people are they're calling them pretty quickly. I had an accident about a month ago, and before we started on this story, and I didn't know anything about this, but I do think that they called me. I mean, I feel like I got a call pretty shortly after the accident from somebody saying, we can get you some care. You okay? I was like, I'm fine. I don't need any, but I wasn't really paying attention to that, but I thought it was an insurance company.
Yeah, I've heard two things. I've heard it's either the report has come out, and then within hours or a day of that reporting actually hitting the portal, then people are contacted. Yeah. But in recent, I've heard multiple attorneys have told me in the last month that people have been starting to being called within hours of their accident. Some on the way to, hey, I need to go to the ER, and then they go and they're redirected to a clinic.
That's crazy, that people are getting it that fast. But it's, I think it's definitely a great story, and opens up some people's eyes, I'm sure. And folks need to know about this stuff, because if they're having accidents, they're getting called. And you talk to a lot of people in here. You talk to people who used to work there. You talk to people who've been in there.
Oh yeah.
And said, we got in there, and I felt like, wait a minute, this is strange. And
signing away their rights too, like signing up with these certain attorneys, and they don't even realize they're doing it.
Well, they're also getting a third of the money. It's like it's being split between the attorney, the clinic, and the victim. Yeah. So you're not even getting much of your money. And they're also, I think, one of the people you interviewed was talking about that they were pushed to do things that, to really try to run up the bill.
Yeah, there's going to be some I'm interested to follow the consequences with some of the lawyers involved. I think that I have it on good information that the Bar Association's going to be coming down on some of them, but the former nurse that I spoke with was saying that he was having lawyers actually directing him for certain treatments, even if he didn't even chart them and identify them, and he was very uncomfortable with that. A part of why he actually ended up leaving. But there's one little patch they put on. It can rapidly increase your bill. It's just, I can't remember. It's like a therapeutic pain patch.
Yeah.
They were trying to push the nurses into meeting a certain amount of quota just because you can push your bill up so high so quickly. Very strange practices. And then on top of that, these are the attorneys' big concerns with their clients who are now former patients, is that when you're connected to this clinic, if the insurance companies ever see that you received care there, they're just going to shut down communication. They're not going to have open discussions and amicable settlement discussions. They're just going to blackball you and say, you're going to have to fight us.
It's a really great story, and I hope everybody reads it. And Ashley created the art for this week. She did the cover. She actually did the cover.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I would say I personally did it. I directed our new artist named Chapman. Yeah.
GT.
Yeah, it's Chapman.
Physical therapy.
Chapman GT, yes. Well, it was, Chat did a nice job. Anyway, it does, yeah. I mean, a skull made out of money, that's good.
It's definitely one of the more metal covers that we've had since I've been here.
It is. It's definitely got
This is frame-worthy.
It's got a lot of attitude. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk with Tommy Hicks. Speaking of attitude, we'll be right back.
Got him. Down in our Alabama town, Lagniappe Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lagniappe Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagniappe Daily's on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lagniappe Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
And we are back with some sports with Tommy Hicks, who seems fired up. Look, he is fired up. We've got some Hall of Fame news this week, right?
We do. On the 14th, the National High School Football Hall of Fame will induct Hanford Dixon, former Theodore High School standout, who also was a great player at Southern Miss, and then went on to play for the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns were actually pretty good back.
When was that?
Those 80s.
Oh, that was like in the 30s. Okay.
No. Back in the 80s when they were winning a few games.
Yeah, they did a little bit when they had Bernie Quasar.
Yeah, I don't know.
Kosar. Yeah, Bernie Kosar was the quarterback.
He was with Frank Minifield, the big cornerback combination.
Yeah,
that was so good for a long
in the
time.
80s. Yeah.
So this is the 5th Hall of Fame that Hanford Dixon is going in.
Wow.
Yeah. He's in, let's see if I can remember them all. He's in the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. He is in the Mobile Sports Hall of Fame. He's in the Southern Miss Hall of Fame. And there's one more. It's escaping me.
Does he get a jacket for each one of these? Do you get a coat? What do you get?
You get a jacket.
A ring?
No, you don't for Mobile, but you do get a medallion.
A medallion. Okay.
Yeah,
all
so
right.
that's
Well,
good thing.
that's good. There's a mix. I hope there's a mix. You know?
There's like 28 guys going in. Only 2 people from Alabama. And both of them are from here.
Who's the other one?
Ben Harris.
Okay.
The outstanding coach at Blount High School.
Okay. Great.
For several years. So that's really kind of cool. The one Hall of Fame that Hanford Dixon is not in is the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is hopeful of getting into one day, where you do get a jacket.
That you get a jacket there.
And this Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio. So he's kind of interested in being there and saying, hi, y'all remember me, I'm happy.
So he can get up there at least and kind of remind them.
Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe that'll help.
And then we have a young lady who did very well this year, Frances Brown.
Frances Brown, who earlier this year became the first individual girls player at the state high school tournament to win the individual title 4 straight years.
Golf, right?
In golf, yes,
golf.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
And so she qualified in Huntsville for the U.S. Girls Junior National Tournament, which is a really big deal.
Yeah.
She is signed already, going to Auburn. In fact, she's going to move up there later this month and go ahead and try to get acclimated to college life and everything, and she'll have this national schedule that she'll be playing all summer long. So
all right.
Good for her.
Yeah, that is great. Also, we have some news. Of course, we have football news, right? Because it's Alabama. We've got some bowl news. The 68 Ventures Bowl has a date.
They do have
is not as obnoxious as the last date. It's better date.
Much better. Yeah. Much better for them. Last year they played the day after Christmas.
Right. That's a rough date.
It's great for TV.
Yeah.
Because everybody's tired of opening presents and hanging out, and you'll watch
not
whatever
good for audience
is in front of you.
participation, though.
Yeah. So they had a 150% jump in their TV ratings from the 23 game to last year. But I think and Jerry Silverstein, the president of the bowl, was very happy.
They would like to have some butts in seats. Yes, that would be good for them. Yeah.
They will have a Wednesday, December 17 date.
Yeah.
And it is the only primetime game that day.
Excellent.
So that's
good for them.
Really
yeah, that's good.
Really
that's good. And then also I think we got another football game, the Port City Classic.
Port City Classic matchup was announced this week. It will be Alabama State against Mississippi Valley State, SWAC, another SWAC game to go along with the Gulf Coast Classic between Alabama State and Jackson State earlier in the year. But this is going to be on November the 15th at Ladd.
Okay.
And,
I was going to say, is it played at Ladd, right?
Yes, both of those games are played at Ladd Stadium. So they usually draw really good crowds, and no reason to think they won't again this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. And then I think we have some a couple folks, all-state players that were announced, right?
Yeah, we had some all-state baseball and softball teams been announced. Sports Writers Association, Rock Gerhardt of Fairhope is the 7A hitter of the year. He had a really good year. Owen Davis, the coach at Alberta, is the 5A coach of the year. He led them to the state semifinals for the first time ever in the school history. Now it's a younger school, but still, that's the first time they'd ever gotten there. In softball, we've got a lot of pitchers, man. We got 7A pitcher of the year, Vic Moten, who today was announced as the Gatorade Alabama softball player of the year. Second straight year she's won that. The 6A player of the year is Gracie Dees from Saraland, who was the Nappy Award winner for female athlete, high school athlete last year. 6A pitcher.
Probably pushed her over the edge. I'm sure that helped her.
Yes. I'm sure it pushed
that Nappy Award probably got her the.
Yeah, I think
got her the.
6A pitcher of the year is Madeline Bird from Baldwin County, and the 4A pitcher of the year is KG Favors of Orange Beach. Orange Beach plays 7 players on the all-state team.
Wow.
7.
Wow.
That's not bad.
That's pretty impressive.
That's not bad. We had 10 pitchers from this area make all-state, either first team, second team, or honorable mention.
Yeah.
Which is
that's great.
Strong.
Yeah. All right. Well, good news. That's good stuff. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and we will be right back with our third segment. Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky. And we are back. Kyle, you just had we're doing this on Wednesday, so we just had breaking news about Kent Davis, the former head of the Veterans Affairs Board,
Indeed.
And
he has sued
the
Governor
governor.
Kay Ivey
he sued the governor.
in federal court.
Federal court, yeah.
In Montgomery.
So that just happened today.
That's right.
Went down. And
Just filed, just went up on the website. He is suing her for wrongfully terminating him in October of 2024.
So folks who may not remember this, even though it was a pretty big deal at the time,
Right.
Kay Ivey, this is the one where Kay Ivey usurped the authority of the board that hired him, and when they didn't vote to get rid of him, she used her supreme executive
powers.
Yes. She called upon the dark side. She used her
Emperor
supreme executive.
Palpatine gave her this power.
Gave her the power. She overrode them and fired the dude on the spot
immediately.
So,
and apparently, according to this lawsuit, had armed guards waiting at his office to walk him out, and people at his house waiting to get his government phone and his keys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And this is a former admiral, by the way.
Rear
this is
admiral
a
of
rear
the
admiral.
Navy.
This is not a guy who was,
Emo don't care.
I'm just saying,
Maybe while she gone, she's going to get you out.
To treat the dude like that, I always thought was a little bit overboard,
And he'd been in office since 2019.
Right. Yeah.
And no issues prior to him filling out an ethics complaint against Kim Boswell, the Alabama Department of Mental Health, for allegedly misusing some ARPA funds.
This is a story that was pretty big last year, and I am proud to say that we started it because it's one of those things. It's somebody got us the ethics complaint, which is not. It's not public record, but it came to us, and we were able to say, wait a minute, you've got the head of the veterans group filing an ethics complaint against the head of the Department of Mental Health.
Yeah.
And that's pretty wild. But
it is.
Department of Mental Health is a cabinet level position.
Right.
And that is, once that became public, the filing was actually many months before all this occurred. But Ivey attacked him right after it became public. He got fired really shortly after that,
saying that he actually was the one who mishandled all of these funds, that he was not cooperating with the state, and saying all these things that weren't true about her and the lawmakers and all kinds of stuff.
And she tried to get the Veterans Board to fire him, and if you remember, she had meetings and that she wasn't going to show up at, but then she wouldn't allow others to not be there. Called a meeting and then she tried to narrow the numbers down. Still couldn't get a vote that she wanted.
Yeah.
He ended up coming in and saying, "Okay, I agree. I will resign by the end of the year, and we'll do it that way." But then he made some comments along the line. He did something that pissed her off, and then she called another meeting and tried to get him fired again.
But they didn't do it.
Still lost the vote.
And lost the vote like twice.
And that's when the Supreme Executive Authority came in.
Yeah.
Which
she opened up a can of Supreme Executive Power.
She did.
And unleashed it.
And whooped him. Yeah. Opened up a can of Supreme Executive Authority.
So now...
She actually jars it. She pickles it and jars it. Yeah, that's how she does it. Yeah,
it's jars it herself.
Yeah, she has that up on the shelf.
That's right next to the peach preserves and the pickled okra is up there too.
Let me get some of that pickled executive authority. I'm gonna get it out here.
We're gonna.
That's my Meemaw. That's my Meemaw impression.
That's a good one. It might be a little deep
step right over there.
High step to get me some of that power.
This is completely devolved now.
This is how
this
is how they do it in Camden.
That's how they do it. But so he in turn has unopened a can of federal lawsuit on her. He wants his job back, which will be kind of interesting to see how that
since
works.
They already hired somebody
since they have somebody in there, and they also reorganized the entire board. Over the legislative session.
There was talk of him running for governor, but I suppose since the Tubbs announcement, that's kind of fizzled.
Sounds like he just wants his old job back now.
Yeah, he wants his job back. He wants some back pay. He wants some damages.
Yeah.
He wants all kind of good stuff. And a trial by jury, too,
Does
in
he
Montgomery.
want Governor Ivey's new dog?
I didn't know she had a new dog.
She
Yes,
does.
a brand
she
new
got?
one, like
Yeah.
a golden lab
Yes,
named
Huntley.
That's
Yeah.
optimistic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So there may be
first-
some talks about that canine
okay.
from You've Got Mail. Great movie. Love that movie.
So, I mean, the chances. I mean, she's going to be in office for another year
Another
and a
year.
half.
Yeah,
you know,
not very long.
God, that's.
the
I
chances
feel
that
like she's been in office for 20 years.
she has.
Yeah.
It's. I mean,
Yeah.
in governor years. Yeah, she's been. Yeah. Yeah, she's been there.
Governor.
She's been there. It'll be 10 years, I believe, when she's
Yeah.
finished. She'll be the longest consecutively serving Alabama governor.
think so.
believe.
Yeah.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
But
Because she took over after Bentley.
right, she got 2 years of
And
the
I
love.
was in
She got 2
high
years of
school.
Love Gov's time, and
Yeah,
then,
he did. Yeah, she did.
So,
It'll be
but this
something.
this lawsuit is pretty fascinating in that, I mean, it alleges some pretty bad behavior, so we'll
Yeah.
have to see where it goes. But it could take a while. I really question whether she'll even be in office by the time this thing goes to court.
Yeah. Well, and he sued her in her capacity as the governor and as a person too.
Yeah.
So that'll
Yeah.
add.
Well, they'll have to
Yeah.
they'll have to decide whether she gets, whether that can happen or not. So, she's acting in her supreme executive authority,
Her,
may be protected.
Her spokeswoman said that they are very confident that her actions will stand up to any kind of court test that they could throw at her.
Yep.
So we shall see.
All right. Yeah. And then we've got one left. There's one less. There's 6 who remain running for mayor now. Steve Nodine dropped out this week. Kind of surprisingly, I was a little surprised that he dropped out this early. I did think he was kind of fighting an uphill battle to get the pardons that he wanted, but he seems to think that, or it's not going to happen. At this point, right?
Yeah, he announced this in a statement Tuesday morning. I don't think he's right ahead of qualifying. So qualifying begins June 15th. So
yeah.
But it is surprising in why he did it. I guess he's pointing to his parole process. Basically, he's not going to get the expedited process that he was hoping for. I think it takes normally 12 to 18 months. He was hoping for faster than that.
You said mean pardon?
A pardon.
Yeah, not parole. Pardon.
Yeah,
yes,
sorry.
Pardon.
And so actually, the interesting part about that is that he could have actually qualified and appeared on the ballot, but he's saying because I'm not going to have this straightened out, voters deserve something that's not this. Basically, he could be elected and then face a situation where he couldn't enter office because these felony charges that he's faced.
But one of the holdups was that one of the things that the flies in the ointment for him is that his misdemeanor plea that he made, ethics plea that he made, has been listed in Alicourt as a felony.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if for people who don't recall, instead of being convicted of murder, there was mistrials, and then
there was a mistrial,
right.
and then there was also, and then there was the charges were dropped.
Yeah,
they were dropped with prejudice, but he pled to a couple of other things.
Yeah, he put one of those being using your office for personal gain, an ethics charge. But he pled to a misdemeanor ethics charge. Well, he comes to find out that it has been in the court system and on his background record, as a felony for the last 10, 14, 15 years. So while he goes to go get a pardon, and he claims that's part of the reason it's been all derailed is because now he's having to retroactively fix all these things. A judge actually just last week granted an order to revise that as calling it a clerical error.
Yeah.
So,
but it's something along the lines of it takes, once you're out of the queue or whatever here, and he can't get it done in an expedited fashion, then it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be able to do that.
Of course, if you're also having to talk about your murder charges and your pardon,
it's never a positive in the world of politics. But hey, these days, who knows? It doesn't seem to be holding people back as much as it used to. So,
I'm wondering if it's going to get shut down. I just got an email from the Pardons and Paroles Board just saying I mean, they basically just said the application is pretty much open. So I don't know if it sounds like the expedited process was denied, but it didn't sound that anything had been officially decided on in terms of that process. I could be wrong. I don't know. But.
Well, we still have 6 left in the race, and that I had questioned whether Steve would be able to be on the ballot anyway, because that would have to happen ahead of time. So that's it. I feel like it'll whittle down a little bit more before the race. Brady, one of the things that you were writing about this week was that the city is, or not the city. Sorry, I don't want to misstate that. Mardi Gras associations.
I was about to say, please. I've heard it from other people.
I know the city's fearful that this is going to happen.
That's one word.
It's not the city doing this.
Right. Yes. Please be clear
loud
about
disclaimer.
that.
The city is not doing this.
Right. Yeah.
This is a Mardi Gras associations. They are considering having the private dancers, which that's a Tina Turner song.
Yes, it is.
The private dance troops will.
Although I was thinking of Tiny Dancer.
That's Tiny Dancer.
You were saying private.
That's Elton John. That's private.
Tiny private.
I'll be your private dance troupe. The private dance troops may be blocked from parading. Yes.
Yeah.
You can sing it if you sing it like me, Mom. Hold me closer. Anyway, all right. Anyway.
Oh my God. The Mobile Mardi Gras Parading Society told me that they're looking at possibly restricting the number of, or just possibly outright banning the private dance groups from Mardi Gras parades.
But these are not the high school dance teams.
They're
folks.
not the high school parades.
That's also there's a difference, and of course, some people immediately have imputed some sort of dark reasonings for this because there's, they're trying to get rid of the dirty dancing, or
that was the high school. People do the dirty dancing.
Generally, a dude with a trumpet in his hand. I mean, that's like, it's the band members most of the time that are humping the barricades.
People love the humping of the barricades.
People do. Some people don't.
Some people think some people do. Some people don't.
As I've said a million times, I don't know at what point at the high school band when that high school band leader is teaching these kids today is air humping, we're going to be doing this, what point is that taught,
right?
So
maybe that's part of it. They're trying to curb it from the beginning.
I don't know. I mean, are they private dance clubs? Are they doing that sort of dancing?
I don't think they're doing that sort of dancing, and personally, I do feel like the type of dancing that is being done is part of this reason that this is going through. But the reason that they're going on the record and saying is because it slows down parades, because they're performing in the middle of
broken floats. But no,
well, that's what I was about to say. I mean, last year you had broken floats. You had somebody fall off of a float that delayed a parade for 45 minutes.
Don't forget the horse that got
broken down, collapsed horses. That'll cause one too.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
There are some things.
Parades slow down. I don't know if the dance group is the primary reason that they do, but that's what the Parading Society says. And I don't know if it's going to go through. It seems one board member who I talked to, who did not want to be on the record whatsoever, said that he was not in support of this at all. He liked having the dance groups and didn't see any harm in it. But the president says we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
The dance troops that you interviewed, they said this is going to cause mental damage for the kids and all sorts of things. I mean, I guess this is like their big thing. Their thing. Yeah.
That this is what they train for all year long. And I assume that if you take that out of the equation, a lot of these dancers are just going to, quit and go find another hobby or something else to do. And so
it's Mardi Gras, Let them dance.
Let them dance.
Let
them dance. Absolutely.
All right, folks, that's all we have for this week. We will be back next Thursday with the next Lagnapod. Thanks for listening to us, and have a great week.
The Lagnapod is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pole Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagniappemobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251 450-4466.